I want to show you something that took me years to fully understand. It's not a strategy and it's not a formula. It's what actually happens to a woman's life as her net worth grows. Because the money doesn't just change your finances. It changes your confidence, your relationships, the way you carry yourself, and, honestly, the way the world treats you. So, let's walk through it level by level. No fluff, just reality. Let's start at the very bottom, and I mean zero. At zero, you're not irresponsible. You're tired. You're working, probably more than one job, coming home to a stack of bills you already know the answer to, and you've gotten good at pretending everything is fine. Checking your bank account feels like a punishment, so sometimes you just don't. And because nobody around you is being honest about it, you start wondering if something is wrong with you. There isn't. You just never got the information you needed, and that is a systemic problem, not a personal one. Now let's say you scrape together $1,000. And I want to be honest with you about what that actually changes, because it's not what most people think. $1,000 doesn't change your life. It changes your sleep. That tight feeling in your chest at night, the one that shows up right before bed, it loosens just a little. You still have a long road ahead, but you now have a small buffer between you and complete disaster, and that buffer matters more than most people give it credit for. So you keep going, and somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, something starts happening that most people don't even notice in real time. Your mindset begins to shift. You stop making financial decisions out of panic and you start making them with at least some clarity. Women at this level consistently say the same thing. They say they stopped feeling guilty every time they spent their own money. And that guilt is worth paying attention to, because men rarely carry it the same way.
We're conditioned from early on to treat money like it doesn't fully belong to us, even when we earned every single dollar of it. Getting to 10,000 starts breaking that pattern, and that's more valuable than the number itself. Keep building and you hit that 25 to 50,000 range, and this is where things start getting real in a way you can actually feel day to day. You have an emergency fund now. You've probably started investing, even if the amount still feels small. But honestly, the biggest change at this level isn't even financial. It's behavioral. You start saying no. No to the family member who treats you like a personal ATM. No to the employer who keeps underpaying you and calling it the budget. No to situations that cost you more than just money. That word no becomes available to you in a way it wasn't before, and money is what puts it in your hands. And then you cross into six figures, and I want to talk about this one carefully because people either overestimate it or underestimate it. Six figures is a real milestone and you should absolutely acknowledge it. But let me be straight with you about what changes and what doesn't. What changes is that you're completely off the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Your investments are compounding in the background whether you're watching or not, and you finally have room to breathe. What doesn't change is that the wage gap didn't disappear when your balance grew. The career breaks you took for kids, for caregiving, for circumstances outside your control, those are still showing up as gaps in your retirement projections. 100,000 is powerful, but for most women it took longer to get here than it should have. That's not a personal failure. That's structural. Now push that to 250,000 and the dynamic shifts in a really interesting way. Compound interest stops being something you read about in an article and starts being something you actually see on your statement every single month. Your money is now generating returns that, in some months, exceed what a lot of people bring home from their jobs. And something subtle starts happening socially too. People in rooms begin listening to you differently. Not because you've changed as a person, but because financial security changes how you show up, and people pick up on that energy whether they consciously realize it or not.
500,000.
And this is where I think the conversation gets really powerful, especially for women. At this point, your money is doing real work around the clock, nights, weekends, holidays, while you're sleeping, while you're living your life. But more than the financial mechanics, women who reach this level often describe a very specific internal moment of clarity. They realize they don't have to stay in a relationship that isn't working. They realize they don't have to keep a job that doesn't respect them. They realize they don't have to justify their decisions to anyone anymore. That's not arrogance. That's what financial independence actually feels like from the inside. And it's something women have been systematically kept from for most of recorded history. So let's talk about the $1 million mark. You're a millionaire. Take a second with that, because it's worth acknowledging. And here's the thing I really want you to hear about this level. The biggest shift isn't the number in your account. It's the silence. The financial anxiety that used to run quietly in the background of every single decision you made, it quiets down. The mental math you were doing constantly without even realizing it, it stops. You walk into rooms differently, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're no longer there to prove anything.
Your investments at this point can realistically cover meaningful monthly expenses, and for the first time you're thinking about legacy, not just survival. Now from $1 million, let's jump to $5 to $10 million, because this is where something fundamental changes in how you relate to the world. This isn't just financial freedom anymore. This is financial power. You're not just secure, you're the one deciding where your time goes, where your money flows, and who gets access to you. And I want to share a number here because it matters. Fewer than 1 in 5 high net worth individuals globally are women. Not because women are less capable. Not because women make worse financial decisions. Research actually shows the opposite. It's because the system was never designed with women in mind at the top. Every woman who reaches this level is doing more than building her own wealth. She's moving the needle for every woman behind her. And then there's 100 million. At this level, the whole conversation changes. You're not managing money anymore. You're managing impact. Generational wealth, investments that shape entire industries, the ability to build, fund, and create on a scale most people never get close to. And the most telling thing about women who reach this level is that nobody asks who helped them get here, because the results speak loudly enough that the question simply doesn't land anymore. So here's what I want you to take away from everything we just covered. Every single level we walked through is real, and every single level is reachable. Not because someone is going to hand it to you, but because the path exists, the strategies exist, and the only thing most women were never given is honest, straightforward information about how this actually works. Whether you're starting from zero right now or you're already on your way to your first 100,000, you are not behind. You are building. And this game is absolutely yours to win.
Now I'm curious, which level do you think changes a woman's life the most? Drop the number in the comments below. I genuinely read all of them.